now this will be a note about, basically about NOAA custom charts, NCCs, the new paper charts that will be replacing, well, have replaced all of the pre-existing traditional paper charts from NOAA. They are technically all discontinued at the end of this year, but in reality, they are gone already. There are no official paper charts. They are all last editions, long outdated already. The official charts now are the ENC, electronic navigational charts, and in some circumstances, one can use the NCC, the ones we're talking about, NOAA custom charts. So, but this is a new technology taking place here, supporting this revolution in charting, nautical charting. And it has a ways to go, but it's going to be, I think it's fair to say, it's going to be exceptional. In the end, these new NOAA custom charts will be far superior to what we were used to in the past. They're not quite there now, but they will be. And I think one can see that. All the information is there. It's just the old nasty problem of getting it all programmed so it works right. So what and training is our job in navigation training. We have to just slowly approach the various aspects of this effect of this process that's going on. And today I want to talk about the chart notes. All nautical charts have notes. And so let's go back to what would be, and also I should say, the example I'm using is a San Diego Bay approach chart, 1 to 100,000, not at all the best for what I want to discuss now. However, it came up in a discussion just the other day, this particular chart, and so for good or better or worse, it's a perfect example to be a random sample of looking at this problem. In fact, well, okay, so that's why I'm using that one. I just forced to use this one because it came up in a conversation. So now I've done a bit of a trick here. I've taken, and we have videos on how to do this, but what I've done is I've taken, this chart's been long discontinued, doesn't exist anymore for months, has not existed. But I went, following a video that we have online, I've downloaded an image of PNG image of the chart, and then I geo-referenced that image into QTVLM. So now I'm using this last edition paper chart just as if I had downloaded an RNC, a raster navigation chart. But that's not what it is. It's all geo-referenced to the right place, but it's not a real RNC. But it shows what we want to discuss. So I want to discuss notes on charts. And so as a school and teaching navigation, one of the things we always taught from day one was when you get a new chart, the first thing to do is sit down comfortably, take your time, and read the chart. In other words, go top to bottom, right to left, read every single note that's on the chart. Just read it. And you may take a pencil and annotate something or other, but it's guaranteed that when you do that, you will learn something that will be valuable at some point. Now, that stage of our teaching is going to have to change because we no longer get charts like this that have the notes printed right on them. I'll show you in a moment what they look like, how the charts look like, how the notes look now. So in a sense, what I'm showing here in this video is I'm comparing the last edition traditional paper chart, i.e. this one here, comparing the last edition paper chart to the ENC, that is now the official chart of that area, and then comparing both of those to the NCC, the NOAA custom chart, the type of replacement paper chart that we can make for this area. Again, they're remarkably good, but they have definite limitations, and we're looking at a couple of them now. Again, issues that will be resolved going forward. So this is a chart, and we see all these notes. we see these notes. Also, the interesting thing, or a thing to note, is that on this paper chart, we see this is regulated navigation. Well, look, regulated navigation area, see note A. See note A, and note A is over here somewhere. And then other places you'll go, and here's note X over here, and someplace it'll say see note X. Here it says see operating area around here somewhere, see note C. Now, what I'm leading up to is these notices of where the notes apply do not show up on the new NCC. So that's what we have to take into account. On the ENC, and I'll do that in a moment, it is not at all that crucial because there will be some sort of symbol here. There'll be some sort of symbol here, and we can right-click what's called cursor pick. We can click that item, and it'll tell us exactly what's going on there. And if there is a note, it'll give us a link to the note. So the notes are handled in the ENC very nicely. But when you go to the paper chart, it's a little bit different. And so let's look. Let me just show you now what would be. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's take a quick look at what the NCC would look like for this chart. This is what it looks like. And it's not uncommon to have blank areas like this, depending on what. That's another story about how you create these. This is all user created. Or we can also buy these eventually ready-made from our present print-on-demand outlets. In this case, this chart, the actual chart here had a nice insert sitting up in this area. So there was no charting. There was no charting information here anyway. And with these, now I'm going to look at this more, but if I'm going to load this I'm going to load this same chart. I'm going to do the same trick. This is a way when you go to the site and make the chart, you end up with one of these PDFs. And the PDF is one page, looks like this. That's like landscape, and then followed by some portrait. Let me make that a little smaller. Followed by some portrait pages, 8.5 by 11, that have the notes. But the thing that, and so that's the way they present the notes. And let's see, I highlighted a couple things like this. Here's an issue. Vessels should use caution while transiting this area. Well, we don't know what this area is. So I'm going to show you how you would resolve that once you have one of these charts. And then entry into the marine nature reserve is affected, and you don't know where the nature reserves are, and so forth on the new charts. But anyway, that's the way the notes are presented. And not all the notes are there. Let me go back. Let me show one in particular that's sort of is a very important point in my teaching of marine navigation. And that is, on these traditional paper charts, if you come down here, all traditional paper charts listed on the chart, always the mean high water. And on a chart like this with such a small scale, covering such a large area, there would be several of these values of the mean high water from San Diego to La Jolla, something like that. But in fact, on this one, it doesn't change very much because that's out on the coast. But you get inside waters, inside San Francisco Bay or Puget Sound or something like that, and you have a scale half this size, you're going to have much bigger change in the mean high water from the top of the chart to the bottom. But anyway, so that's the value. Around San Diego, it looks like the mean high water is about 5 feet. Now, I mentioned that as a chart note, but it's also kind of a side issue, is that in the NCC at present, there is no way to learn that mean high water. And strangely enough, as important as it is not easy to find it at NOAA. tidesandcurrents.noaa.gov. That's where we get all our modern tides and current data. But it's hard to find this mean high water. But it is encoded in the ENCs. And so let me actually, now what am I, QTVLM, and I'm this. Let me shut this off, charts, it's called GRIBs, weather images. I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to turn on the ENCs. Now here is the actual ENC. So we're comparing ENC to NCC to the last paper chart. Let me just finish up this one point. With the mean high water, you can get that from it's encoded into all the ENCs, but the ENCs, regardless of the scale, always include only one value. And since the mean high water is actually the height datum of the chart, you can find it by going over. I'm in an interactive ENC chart now, and I just got to go up to any kind of green foreshore and right-click it and do the vector chart elements. I'm cursor picking the foreshore, and I want to go to the depth area. See, there's the area I'm looking at. And that has a depth area 0 meters. That's the contour right out here. That's the sounding datum. That's the datum for the sounding. All the soundings are given positive numbers relative to 0 tide height. Now, this is then the height datum of the chart, which is what we care about. In other words, bridge clearances, the height of lights determine the visibility. Everything is relative to this contour right along here, the height datum, which in U.S. waters is mean high water. And here it is, it's minus 1.5 meters. Minus 1.5 meters. And it's minus because with these datums, with this vertical datum here, down from 0 is positive, so up from 0 is minus. 1.5 meters is 4.92 feet. So there's the 4.9 feet, and that's how you get it from a ENC chart. Okay, so let me go back now. Let's just see what I want to show. Let me go back now and load into QTVLM. I'm going to go GRIBs, weather images, open an image. What I've done now, okay, I'm going to NCC, and here I've done the same thing. I downloaded that PDF that I made at the NOAA site. And then I exported the image out of that, the chart image. And then I took that chart image and georeferenced it to put into here. Namely, I just want all 3 of these charts in this program, QTVLM, because then I can compare them all and so forth. So that's okay. So I go here. Let me say okay. Now we're looking, let me zoom out. Now we're looking at the NCC as you would see it. Now, you wouldn't do that. The NCC is a paper chart. It's supposed to be laying on your table. And this is a big one. This got to be like, I think, 34 by, well, if you go to the bottom, let's see, I think it should say down here how big this one is supposed to be printed on 36 by 48 inch paper. And if it's all printed properly, then do I have that mark on here? Oh, it's not. Oh, yeah, no, here it is, right here. If this is printed properly to scale, this thing here ought to be 6 inches. You put a dollar bill on there, it should line up just right there to there. And that means you got it printed to scale like it's intended to, meaning this is 1 to 100,000. That means that 1 inch on this chart is 100,000 inches of life. Okay, so this is now the NCC, and you see, here's what we get. We see a few I's here. That I usually means information, so it's trying to tell us something, but we don't have any idea what it's telling us, right? These I's. They're trying to tell us something. But in this new system, until this detail is worked out, That's a subject I'm addressing right now. Now, what you can do, let's go, because you had to make this chart, or you bought it. Okay, remember, there's two options. You either create this PDF yourself, and then you get it printed somewhere, or you go to a print-on-demand printer and say, give me the best NCC that matches the old 18765. And they'll do that. They're going to have something, I don't know that they all do now yet, but eventually they will, and that's how you'll get charts that look like the old charts. But you don't need to have charts that look like the old charts. I could come along and just make a chart that looks just like this area right here, just like this. And in fact, for this area here, this approach, these charts, this is, I can almost see here, if I'm zooming in on this NCC, I could almost get in there, but that would not be adequate chart. But I could have two NCCs. I would make this big one for out here, and then I make another one that's just, that's just like this. Maybe 1 to 40,000, 1 to 40,000, just like this. And then I'd be able to drive into this bay. And then if I wanted to, I'd make 1 to 20,000. It's just inside the bay and so forth. You make whatever you want. You get it printed. We have links online about where to get economical printing if you want some lower quality paper, but a lot less money, and so forth. All right, but now we're back to the marks. So here's one thing you could do. Let me just show this before I do one last thing I wanted to show. Let me go back. I want to go to a browser, actually. Okay, here we go. This is the app where you make the charts, where you create the NCC apps. And if you go to our chart resource page, that's starpath.com get charts. This is all the links related to charts these days. And then you click this bottom link here, no custom charts. Then you come to here, and then you follow some instructions. They've got pretty good instructions on this now, on how to do the user guide, and there's videos. We have guides and videos, and so forth. So you're going to make this chart. So I've set it up to make, and I'm going to want to make a chart right here. And this is the 1 to 100,000, and that's reflecting what they have basically in the ENCs in stock, that we're basing these on. So I zoom into here, and as you zoom in, you'll eventually, see, remember, there's an eye and there's these two things here. Let me come back over here. What are we looking at here? This is the NCC. Here's what we see on the NCC. I see the eye and these two things like that, right? So now, again, this is the app. This is a NOAA app. But here's the important point that's maybe often overlooked. Well, it's all new stuff here. But you click this eye here, the little eye information. Did it go dark? Yeah. That then makes this background, your background tool makes it interactive. So it acts like it's an ENC. So I can click this, you see, and it'll pop up. And that's it. And it's telling me 9 things that are related to here. Actually, let me close that. Let me click right inside here, because that's what I want to know. Okay, so I'm clicking in here, and I've got 9 things. First of all, there's a sounding. It's obviously there's a sounding. It's telling me not just what's on the surface here, but this type of pick report is telling you everything that's charted at that location, right? So now I click this. There's what do I got here? A reserved area. Oh, let's see. Restricted area. Oh, look. Now you see, it's a restricted area. Let me just tell you something. I know that that's not what it's talking about, because this app has a very nice feature of highlighting what you click. So I better zoom out. Let me zoom out. Aha, you see that? This blue, that's the area, that's the restricted area it's talking about. This whole zone is restricted. So that's not, we haven't got to our dump area yet. That's what we're after here. Let's see. And see, there is a quality of the data. Here is the charting system in use, the pub system in use, dumping ground. And you see this lit up. This lit up. so I know this is a dumping ground now, so forth. Anyway, that's the point. You could go through and you can click anything and learn what you want, and that you just have to turn that eye on. Then later, you will go in here and actually create a chart of your scale and your size right here this way. But that's what I wanted to show about the app itself. So we're back here now, and we know what that is. So and here's in a sense the main thing I want to do. This is the NCC. Let me change back to weather images, close. Well, I'll just go this one. And I'm going to change back to the last edition of 18. Okay, last edition, activate. Okay. Now, last edition. So now what I want to do is find out, you see on this page, we got this note, we got that note. These are all notes telling us what applies to where chart notes apply. And so in principle, I could put a mark, I can put a mark here, and mark that. And mark these places. Then I can compare those, delete, yes. Compare those to the NCC. And that's what I've done. So I could go here, let's see. Well, I would go mark manager. Then I've got to go into the archives and take the NCC chart markers. And then load them into, load. Wait a minute. Wait just a minute. Archives. This. Load into QTVLM. Okay. Done. All right. So what I've done, actually, I did, so to not bore everybody bore you even more, I made these marks ahead of time. So you see where this says there was a note here, restricted navigation area, dumping area note. Over here, note on regulated, something or other. And so all these are marked. Operating area note C, for example, like that. Now, let's do this. Now, with knowing on the old paper charts where all these notes used to be indicated, we can go back. Let me go back now to there. Weather images. I'm going to go here now. I want to change to the NCC. Now I'm looking at the NCC. Okay. No, I didn't do it. Gribs, weather images, open an image file. Oh, you see, I have to remember how this works. NCC, I have to set activate. I have to turn on activate. Okay. It's a great system, but you have to follow the rules. Okay, now let's see this is kind of the comparison I'm after from the beginning with that, I'm sorry, very long introduction. Okay, so now we see on the paper chart that we were used to, there was a note here, regulated navigation area, see note A. Well, that's not there. Operating area note C. Now, there is something here, and so it could be that when you're building your chart or, when you get one, you can always go back and download. It's very easy to go online and download the last edition of any NOAA chart that's discontinued, and then you can view it. But you see, there's an I here, but in the places where we had all these alerts before about what was there, there's nothing really there on the NCC. So our job will be, with regard to these notes, is to skim the notes, and then look at the chart and see where this might be, and then maybe have to do a little research to finding out where it is. The other, I just realized something. There are, again, this is a work in progress. There's a couple of notes, important notes even, that are just missing from the list. They are missing from the list that goes on the new NCCs. But I'm going to finish with one. I want to show, getting into a little bit of detail, but it is interesting, I believe. We're going to be, let's shut this off. Let me just shut this stuff off. Gribs, weather image, close the image. And now here's the NCC. Here's the stuff we're going to really navigate with. And then, for example, in this area, if I want to, let me get rid of these notes. Let's see, how can I do that? Shift, there, delete all the marks, yes. Okay, got it. Okay, delete. So when you're doing a real ENC and you want to know what the notes are, you've got something here. I can right-click that, vector chart elements, and I can go down and see dumping ground. Let's see, I can turn this. Yeah, you see, this highlights what I'm looking at. There's a dumping ground. Now that big navigational restricted area we looked at before, you see that's that whole one up there. But here I can just turn this on, and then I can read about the dumping. Wait a minute, where's my dumping ground? Dumping ground. And look, here's note C, or well, there's a note here. Okay, I turn this on. Regulations for ocean dumping. So there's the note that applies to here. So you see every note that matters, you get right to it with a click of the item. You see here's something else. I don't know what this one is. The vector chart elements, restricted area. It's a nature. Oh, it's a nature reserve. How big is that? There's the nature reserve. There's the boundaries of the nature reserve. So you see, if you have, well, most people, or a lot of people using paper charts, are using them as their primary method. They don't want to do electronics whatsoever. But in a sense, a compromise that many mariners will be doing is they'll be running with these ENC, the electronic charts, but they are prudent and they want to have this paper NCC on the boat as a backup. So I think there'll be a large number of mariners who are navigating with ENCs and with the NCCs. And if you have those both, then you can go on here and just draw in. You've got a nice program like QTVLM that shows these ENCs beautifully, or other programs, and then you can identify the things that are missing and then annotate them on your paper chart as needed. So, and that's the way that is. And there's even, there's options like, let me see if I can put this control. I did some keystrokes here. Highlight objects with extra information right there. Now that's going to turn on all kinds of things, you see. That's going to tell you every place there's information of some kind that you can click and get information. I don't know what this one is. Chart, no, not a vector chart information. It's a restricted area. What else? Depth there, nautical. No, that's a coincidence. It's at the buoy. It's marking the boundary of this restricted area here. Okay, the last thing I wanted to show is this. Okay, these charts we store on, well, I'm showing them in the computer, but I store them on the hard drive somewhere, right on the hard drive. And here's where I have these stored here, downloads. And so this is the chart we're using now. US 4, it's a scale band 4, it's a US chart, it's a Canada chart, it's actually number 74. And then this is what that looks like. When I download the chart, it looks like this. When I open that up, it's an ENC root. They all have one of those. And then after I open that up, I get the actual chart file. Now, when I open the chart file, this is the main chart here, .00. That's the chart, the graphic chart. This chart had this date. This is actually fairly recent. Has only one update, and that's here. But here are this is all the chart nodes, here to here. And the main one is always A. So if you open A, you're going to see all the chart nodes for that chart for that ENC chart. That's the main list of sort of boilerplate generic notes that apply to the whole chart, essentially, right? That's in A. Then you start getting the special ones. B, the inland about the navigation rules, maybe marking the demarcation zones or something. Then you've got C. Here's dumping rules, something about dumping. That'll probably show up at all the dump sites. D, Clean Water Act. I don't know. No discharge areas, okay, so forth. And so these are your notes, okay, whatever. So those are all your notes, quality of the bathymetric data and so on. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to show. That is the file structure on your computer if you ever cared to just brute force look at all the notes that belong to that chart in the real ENC. Okay, it's been longer than I'd hoped, but I'll stop there. Thank you.